this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this bracelet, which I'm calling crystal lace. Now this bracelet turns out to be a little over, not quite 8 inches, so it's like 7 3/4 inches the way I clasped it. If you have a very small wrist, then you will want to leave off 3 units. Instead of making 16 components like I show you in the video, make 13 and then just modify the way you clasp it. Use a bigger clasp if you need a little bit more room, use a smaller clasp if you need a little less room. Add a unit of right angle weave on either end to make it a little bit bigger. There's several ways to do it, but this one that I'm showing you is going to be not quite 8 inches, like 7 3/4. I'll go ahead and put it on my wrist and show you what it looks like. Okay, so here's the clasping. It's a little fancy for my sweatshirt, but here, this is what it looks like on the wrist. It's really quite pretty. I'll turn it so you can see. And it's a little big for my wrist. Not terribly. I mean, it moves around quite a bit. But I think if I were to do it again, I would change my last unit a little differently. However, most people are about 7 1/2, 8 inch wrist. Most of all my customers. So it'll work out just fine. But like I said, if you have a very small wrist or a medium-sized wrist, you may need to modify it just a little bit to fit you better. And that's what that looks like. Let's go ahead and look at the material list to make this bracelet. Okay, for your components, you'll want to thread your needle with about an arm's length and a half of thread. So measure from your fingertips to about your throat and call that good. Thread it onto your needle and then get out your 2 colors of 11/0 seed beads. I am going to use my light silver and my nickel plated silver. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 3 11/0 seed beads in my light colored silver on my needle, and then I'm going to pick up an 11/0 in the other color, and then I'm going to pick up 3 more of the lighter color and 1 of the darker color, 3 of the lighter color, 1 of the darker color, and 3 of the lighter color, and 1 of the darker color. I will show you what I have. Basically, you just want 4 sets of 3 divided by 1 of the darker colors. Start with the set of 3 and end with the darker color. So you have 4 darker colors and 4 sets of 3 on your needle. And then you're going to pull these down to the end of the thread. You do not have to leave a long tail, but you have to have enough to hold on to and not allow your beads to slip off of your thread. Now I'm making a loop with my thread, and I'm going to go back from the tail side, and I'm going to go through the first 4 beads on my thread. I'm going to hold onto my tail and my working thread and pull these into a circle like such. Just like that. Move these out of the way just a little bit. Now I'm going to sew back through this entire ring. We're not going to tie a knot because it tends to get inside the beads and block your needle as you try to go through them again. And we will be going through these several times. So we're just going to go all the way around all of the beads again. This is where my tail and my first bead start, so I'm just going to go right past that, all the way down into the next dark colored bead, and I'm going to hold on to everything with my thumb and my finger, get my tail out of there, and pull this into a circle. Now just to make sure that it's a little bit more secure, because at this point it'll still slip off the thread if I pull my working thread, I'm going to go through the next 4 beads and exit the next dark bead here. Just to kind of give myself just a little bit more anchoring. Now I'm going to pick up 2 of my lighter color 11/0 and 1 of my darker, that's a 15/0, 2 of the lighter. So I've got 5 11/0 seed beads on here. 1 in the middle is darker. I'm going to go from this dark bead into the next dark 11/0 seed bead on my circle. If I can organize myself here. like so. Just pull this tail out of my way and pull these down by holding all my beads tightly between my fingers. If it twists, just untwist it, and then it should lay on top of your beads like so. I'm going to turn, get my tail out of the way here, and I'm going to do that again. I'm going to pick up 2 of my lighter colored 11-ohs, 1 of my darker color, and 2 of my lighter color, like so. And again, I'm going to go from this dark bead I'm coming out of into the next dark bead. If your circle is getting loose, just pull on your tail thread a little bit and it should tighten back up. Now, I'm going to tuck this tail under, turn my piece, and do the same thing again. 2 lighter color, 1 darker color, 2 lighter color 11-oh seed beads, like so. Now I'm going to go into the next dark bead and pull these down. Move my tail, and I will do this one more time. So 2 lighter color, 1 darker color, and 2 lighter color. And I'm going to go into the bead that I first started in. Let's get just a little bit closer, and we're just going to go directly into that 11-oh seed bead. While you're in there, go into the 3 11-oh seed beads on the inside of the circle, the original circle you made, and then exit the next dark 11-oh. This will anchor your last little net you're putting on here. So it's a basic netting type stitch, just like so. Now you should be coming out of this dark bead right here. Get close so you can see. And what we're going to do is make sure everything is secure, everything looks good, and we're going to pick up one of our 4mm bicone crystals. I'm using the hematite color. I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to go into the next, so I'm coming out, my thread's coming out on this side. I'm going to go to the next dark bead on the original circle we made and go through the next dark bead. As I do this, I'm going to hold my piece between my fingers. I'm going to guide that crystal down in between the 2 strands of beads we just made. Now the first one doesn't go in there perfectly. Don't worry about it. We'll tighten it as we go around. That's what that should look like. Then we're going to pick up another bicone crystal, and we're going to go from this bead to this bead. So it's the next dark bead in your original circle of beads. Pull and line it up. Now you can pull tight, and you can get both of those beads to kind of fall in between the 2 strands of beads like so. It doesn't perfectly fall between, so don't get crazy about it. Just put it in there nicely. And then pick up your next bicone. And again, go into the next dark bead on your original circle and pull. Straighten out that bicone crystal and pull it down into place, like so. Then pick up your next one and go into your next dark bead and go into that first bicone crystal. Sure, Gina, you can do that. Go right into that bicone crystal. There we go. You don't have to do that. You can pull it through the bead and then go through the bicone if you'd like. But I think I'm fancy here, so there we go. Now, at this point, I have to pull my thread pretty tightly. Make sure as you're pulling it, you're not pulling it against the side of the crystal because you'll break your thread. So just pull it straight through the crystals. Make sure they're nice and tight. Our next step will be to put a crystal between these crystals. So we want to make sure everything is nice and neat, and then we're going to get some 3mm bicone crystals. I'm using clear ones. You're going to pick up one. You're coming out of the crystal, you're going to hop directly into the next crystal. This you have to pop down in there nice and securely so it goes neatly between the bicones, like so. Now we are going to place another between the bicones. So I'm coming out of this bicone, I'm going to go into the very next one, and I'm going to pull my thread through, untwist the bicone, they just tend to want to twist up, and pull it down nice and neat between. The holes will kind of set up a little bit high. Don't worry about that. We're going to utilize that position later, so don't worry about that too much. They're not going to go all the way in between. Just get them in as deeply as you can, and then go into the next crystal. Make sure to pull it down in between the others, being careful how you pull your thread. And then pick up the next one and go into the next bicone crystal. Now this one is harder because it's a little tighter, so let's go into there and pull that crystal down. Now this is the one that'll want to be all weird, so make sure that you get it in there very nice and neat, and everything looks good. They're all arranged nicely because our next stitch will set them, so you want to make sure that they're nice and neat. Now you can see I have a little recessed 11-0 here. I need to go through that 11-0. So if you need to, you can turn your piece over, bring your thread with you, and go into that 11-0 on the back, right there. Like so. And pull through. At this point, my thread is pretty secure, so I'm going to cut down this tail because it just gets in my way. I'll leave a tag and I'll burn it down a little bit, but I'm not going to burn it down to the point to where it'll roll into one of my beads. I'm just going to roll it down like so. And then I am now coming out of this little 11-0 seed bead. I'm going to go directly into these two 11-0s and the corner 11-0, like so. Now I'm going to pick up 3 of my darker color 11-0s. I've got an 8-0 in there, and I'm going to make a little picot right here on this bead. So I'm just going to go, I'm coming out of this side, I'm going to go into the opposite side, and I'm also going to go down into the two 11-0s. Don't worry about the recessed 11-0, just go through those two 11-0s. Make sure that your crystals are still in a nice place, everything looks good, and pull these around into a picot like so. Now we have a little opening between our beads right here. We're coming out of these 11-0s. We are going to pick up an 8-0 seed bead now and go into the next 3 11-0s like so, and pull that 8-0 down into that space like so. Then we are going to skip this 11-0. We're not going to do anything on it. We're not going to do a picot like we did here. We're just going to go down into the next 2 11-0s. As you do this, you can kind of give a little tug on your thread, pulling these 11-0s apart a little bit, and then pick up your next 8-0 seed bead and put it into this space here. So let me back off just a little because I think that I might be getting out of camera a little. We're going to go into the next set of 11-0s, these 2, and then the one on the corner here. Make sure that that 8-0 doesn't twist and it pops down in between those beads nicely, and it might take a little coercing. And then we're going to make a picot on this one because it's opposite the picot over here. So we're going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads, and we're going to go into the opposite side of the bead we're coming out of and pull these 3 into a circle. Then we're going to go into these 2 11-0 seed beads here. And as you pull your thread through, just pull it out a little bit away from you so that it pulls those beads up and gives you more space in between these two sets of 211-0s. And then you will pick up another 8-0 seed bead and you will go into the next set of 11-0s right here. All three of them, like so. Pull it through, pull the 8-0 down, and that's what you should have. Now one more time, go into the next two 11-0 seed beads here. Pull them out a little bit just to give yourself more space. Pick up an 8-0 seed bead. Now you're going to have to go into these two 11-0s and the one underneath the picot, the original one that you attached the picot to. So you're going to go through these two 11-0s and that one in the corner. Turn it over, you can see it better. You can see I'm coming out of that 11-0, and then I'm going to pull this down, making sure that my 8-0 thread doesn't twist here. And I'm just going to pop that in there. Now they do not fit perfectly, but you can get them in there nicely. Okay, so now what we have to do after we've made this picot is we're going to travel down these two 11-0s here and exit this 8-0. So we're coming out of the 11-0 in the corner here. We're going to come down into these two. And then we're going to go up into that 8-0, like so. And exit. And now we're going to do some more crystal embellishments. So what we're going to do is we are going to sew over, actually we need to sew over into this corner one. Sorry about that, guys. We need to sew all the way over into this corner 11-0. I apologize. I've done two components, and in the last one you had to be here, and I'll show you that other component too. But right now we want to be coming out of this corner bead right here, and then we're going to pick up another 3mm bicone crystal, and we're going to go into this bicone crystal closest to us in the direction our thread is coming out of, right here. And I'm going to just pull my thread through and tighten that. You're going to pull that crystal up tight against the other one. Now we're going to pick up another 3mm bicone crystal, and we're going to go into this corner bead here underneath the picot, the one that the picot is attached to. You're going to go just into that bead, like so, and slide through and pull your crystal. Now these are going to take a lot of tension. You don't want to be able to see any thread, so pull them nice and neat and tight. Now we're going to pick up another bicone crystal, and we're going to go into the crystal here, right in the middle. Just find its hole. It should be sideways there, just available for you, and then bring the crystal down and pull. And again, pick up another bicone crystal and go into this corner 11-0 here. Untwist the thread as usual. No, this one's really being stubborn. And once you get that untwisted, pull it very tightly. Really good tension on this. Just be careful how you pull your thread so you don't cut it, like so. Now you can see that these are laying very tightly, like diamonds, you know, bezeled in there, or whatever you want to call it. Now we're going to pick up another crystal. We're coming out of this corner one. We're going to go into this one right here, and we're going to pull very tightly. Then pick up another crystal, and you have to go into the 11-0 on the corner here under the picot. Just the 11-0 you have attached the picot to. Now sometimes you have to turn it over It's a little tight now, so you'll get it through. Don't worry about that. It's just you have to find the right position, because now it's not thread tight. The beads are just laying very tight against it. So I have to find a way I can exit my needle. There we go. And then pull like so. This will bend up your needle and everything, but it is very easy to do. You just have to have a little patience. Now we're coming out of this corner. We're going to go into, we're going to pick up a crystal and go into this crystal here. And pull very tightly. Pick up another crystal and go into this original bead that we started in here. And pull your crystals very tightly. Make sure everything looks really nice and neat. Now, when you have very good tension, you want to sew up through these next 3 crystals again. So sew through the 3 here on the top. And you don't want to sew through these crystals too much, because then it'll start looking like thread instead of pretty crystals. We're going to go down into this corner bead underneath the picot here. Then we're going to turn it over. We're going to sew through these 2 11-0s right here. It's very tight, so it's very difficult to get your needle into there. Just find a spot and come up through. And right here between the 8-0 and the 2 11-0s, we're going to tie a knot. So just grab that thread bridge right between those beads carefully. Pull a loop and pull a knot. Go through the 8-0 and the next 2 11-0s. And here, just pull very tightly and then cut your thread off and burn it down. Don't let it go inside your beads, just kind of push it to the side. And that is your first component. And we will make several of these components, and then we will hook them together. So go ahead and make 16 components. So for your first 15 components, you're going to make them exactly like I showed you, with the amount of thread that we started with. I think I said an arm's length and a half. And then you're going to tie each one off. On your last unit, you are going to start with, I started with a little over a wingspan. We may still have to add a little bit of extend our fire line as we're connecting, but I've started with a wingspan on this particular one, a little over actually, and I made my component. And now I still have a lot of thread on my needle after making my component and tying it off, but not cutting it off. I still have a lot of thread, so I can use this thread to start connecting my units together. So just keep in mind, we may have to add more. It's not necessarily an accurate measurement. It's just enough to get us started. So now I'm going to pick up 3 of my components here and put the rest of them aside. So I have 4 altogether on my desk here. I'm going to arrange these 4 units so that the picots that we created, the little right angle weave units, they are all going to be facing towards the inside of the diamond and towards the outside of the diamond. You want to make sure that you don't lay them out or connect them sideways to where the picots are this direction, horizontal, because in our second step, if the picots are not all facing each other, we will not be able to do it. So, sew around your last unit with your long thread until you're coming out of an 8/0 seed bead. Lay your units out so that you can see how you're going to connect them, making sure that the picots are on the inside. And then you can see right where you're coming out of this 8/0 that this 8/0 is laying right next to it on this component here. So what we're going to do is we're going to join those two components together. You can move these two aside once you've established where you're going to connect on these two. Laying them out like that just helps you establish where you're going to sew from 8/0 to 8/0. Once you've established that, pick up an 11/0, a 4mm bicone, and an 11/0 onto your needle. And then go from this 8/0 to this 8/0 on the same side of the 8/0, so don't crisscross over. Just go straight across, like so. Let's get you a little closer so you can see I'm coming out this side of the bead. I'm going to go into this side of this bead, and I'm going to pull these down. And then I'm going to pick up an 11/0 seed bead, a bicone crystal, and an 11/0 seed bead, and then I'm going to go into the opposite side of this component here, right there. So basically, we've just made a circle, and now we're going to sew through this circle again to secure this. If you want to sew through it more than once, if you want to sew through it twice just to make sure that it's really secure, that's fine too. Some people are really hard on their jewelry, and these are crystals, so you may want to secure it more than once. That's fine. I'm going to go all the way around. Maybe. There we go. And now, oh, I've got it tangled. Let me untangle that. You're going to tangle on these a million times while you sew them together. It's just going to happen. So just be prepared. Okay. So there, I have those two together like so. Now what I want to do is I want to connect my next one. Let's see, how do I want to do this? Here. So, or here, either way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew up through here. This is going to be a better thread path, so I'm going to sew up through these two beads, get into this 8/0, sew over into this 8/0, and connect. So now that I've established where I want to be, I'm going to go ahead and sew up through. So each time laying it out so that you can see where you're going to connect really helps. I'm going to turn this over so you can see. I'm coming out of this 8/0 seed bead. I need to sew into these 11/0s here. And it can be a little difficult just because of the angles that the beads are laying at. They're not necessarily full of thread. They're not hard to sew through once you get in them. It's just that the angles that they're laying at, sometimes they block each other. So sew through those two, and then I'm going to sew over. I sewed through those two and the picot, and then I'm going to sew through these two 11/0s and the 8/0 here. And now I can turn it back over and reestablish where I need to connect. Now I want my picots to be on the inside, so I'm going to make sure that I connect to this 8/0 so that my picots are all towards the inside of my connection here. So I'm going to pick up an 11/0, a 4mm bicone, and an 11/0. And I'm going to go into the same side I'm coming out of this 8/0 into this 8/0 on this component. and pull this together. And then an 11-0, a 4mm bicone crystal, and an 11-0, and go into the other side. And pull it up. And then sew through it again. Now, I'm completely through. However, I need to connect from this 8/0 seed bead next. So I'm going to sew down through this 8/0, through the 2 11/0s on the back, this 11/0, and the 2 11/0s on the back until I get to this 8/0. So first I'm just going to go ahead and sew here, finish out getting back to my 8/0 seed bead that I started in. And I've got a tangle right there. Let me pull that off of there. And then down into this 8/0. And then I'll turn it over just so you guys can see exactly my thread path. Coming out of this 8/0, I'm going to go into these 2 11/0s here. And through the 11/0 in the picot here. And then these 2 11/0s here. And then up through this 8/0. And when I turn it over, you'll see where I'm at. So now I can grab my next component, put it here. See, I've got my thread twisted here. I'm going to have to fix that off camera, but let's begin. I'm going to go ahead and fix this. I'm going to pull my thread out of the little twist I made here, and then we'll connect this one. Okay, I corrected that little issue. I just had some thread that didn't pull through properly, so I had to untangle it and pull it through properly. Now I'm going to connect this component, making sure that your picot is towards the inside. Pick up your 11/0, your 4mm bicone, and your 11/0, and begin to connect to the next component through the 8/0 as long as it's laying in the proper direction. So make sure that you lay it out first, and then go ahead and pick up your 11/0, your bicone crystal, and your 11/0, and then go through the other side, creating your loop, and pull it together. And then sew back through it. Once I get back up through my 8/0 here, I'm going to establish where I need to exit so that I can connect my next one. So it's rather obvious at this point I have to sew over until I get to this 8/0 seed bead. So what I'm going to do is turn this over and sew until I get to this 8/0 over here. That must have been my tail thread from my unit there. Yeah, that's all that is. Okay, so sew up through the 11/0s. And then exit this 8/0 right here. and then turn over. The dado isn't very secure. And then we're going to connect here. So, same thing we've been doing. Let me back off. I don't know if I was in camera or not. I hope I was. Pick up an 11-0, a bicone crystal, and 11-0. And we're going to go from this 8-0 to this 8-0. Pull it together. Pick up an 11-0, a bicone crystal, and an 11-0. And go into the 8-0. And then we're going to secure this. So sew back all the way around it. And our next step, we'll be working out of these picots. So I'm going to sew back up around until I get back into this 8-0 seed bead on this unit here. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn my piece over, just so you can see the beads better. We're going to sew into these 11-0s and then into this picot so that we can get to this top bead in the picot here. So let's get closer. So what we're going to do is we're coming out of this 8-0 here. We're going to go into these two 11-0s that it's attached to and up through the 11-0 in the picot right here. Pull everything tight, and then we're going to sew into this side bead on the picot here. And then we're going to sew through the top bead and go ahead and push it through the front. Pull your thread through, turn it over, and now we are going to connect the inside of our unit. So we've got all 4 of them connected like this. Now we're going to do the inside embellishment. And we're going to use 6mm bicones for that. And all you have to do is pick up a bicone. You don't need any 11-0s or anything. You're just going to pick up a 6mm bicone and you're going to go from top bead in each picot to top bead in each picot. So coming out of this one, my thread's coming out in this direction, so I'm going to go into this top bead in the picot right here. And I'm going to pull the bicone crystal down like so. Make sure it lays nice. And then I'm going to pick up another 6mm bicone crystal and go into the top picot on this unit right here. And pull. And then, again, I will pick up another 6mm bicone crystal and I will go into the next picot. And then again, one more 6mm bicone crystal, back off just a little, I can't seem to stay in frame here, and go into the one we started in on the opposite side here, right there. Now I'm going to sew back through this whole thing and pull them together a little tighter here and secure them. So I'm just going to go back through all of them again. And you can see how that tightens everything up. And draws it all together. And that's what that looks like. I'm coming out of this picot here. I am going to sew around the picot and then get myself established over here so that we can begin our next unit. So I am going to sew down. I'm in this top picot here, right here. I'm going to sew down into the side here, and I'm going to push it through the back as I do that, just so that I can turn it over. Now I want to get over to this 8/0 seed bead here, or this one here. Either way, it doesn't matter. Let's see which direction I'm going. So it's going to be this seed bead here because I'm coming out here. I need to follow my thread path, so I need to go down into this 11/0 that's in the bottom of the picot here. And go through the beads like so. Try not to get through any of the 11/0s that are attaching your bicone crystals in between your units. Sew over to the next set of 11/0s and go through like so. And then again here. Okay. So now you have to turn it this way because we are only going to add up like this. We're going to keep making the same kind of sets. So you'll want to just arrange it so you can see where you're going. Now I know I need to connect here. So I can move these two. Just keep arranging it for yourself. Otherwise, you'll get confused and you won't know where to go next. So establish where you want to go and then go there, one at a time. So I've got my 11/0, my crystal, and my 11/0, and I'm going to go through this unit. And then again, 11/0, 4mm bicone crystal, and 11/0. And I'm going to go through this side of the 8/0. Then of course I'm going to sew back through all of it. Okay. Did I double that? Yes, I did. Okay, so I'm coming out here, so I will sew down to this 8/0 seed bead so I can attach my next unit here. So now that I've established that, I'll turn this over and I'll sew through these seed beads on the back here. And exit this 8/0 right here. Turn it over. Establish where I want to join it. Make sure that my picot is going towards the center. Remember, you always want to make sure your picot is going towards the center or you won't be able to do this part. So then I'm going to pick up my 11/0, my 4mm bicone, my 11/0, and go into this one. Bicone, 11/0, and go into this side and sew back through it. So basically it's just adding all the units now and retaining your design pattern in the diamond shape and then putting your embellishment in the center. We'll go ahead and finish this entire unit and then we'll do the rest off camera. And remember, it's going to tangle a million times. Just take it slow. Okay, so here I am. I have to sew back over to this 8/0 and then over to this 8/0. So let me sew back through. I'm going to back off a little because I'm probably out of camera most of the time here. I'm going to sew back until I can get over to this 8/0 here. So now I'm going to turn my piece over. Oops, I just tangled again. I'm telling you, this does nothing but tangle the whole time you're sewing it together. It's just one of those fun ones. Turn it over. I need to get to this 8/0, so I'm going to sew over through these 11/0s. Am I in that 11/0? Yes, I am. Over to this 8/0. Turn it over. Get my next one. Make sure my picot is towards the center, like so. I know I'm going to attach here, so I'm going to pick up my 11/0, my bicone crystal, and my 11/0. And I'm going to go through like so. And then one more. And reinforce it. Okay, I'm back in my 8/0. Now I know I need to sew over to this 8/0 so that I can attach here. So I'll just turn this over so I can see where I'm sewing, and I'll go into these two 11/0s here. I'm bending my needle into smithereens doing this, but you know, it's just a needle. There we go. And then I'll exit this 8/0 here, turn it over, and you can see it's rather obvious where you're going to attach this time. The last one's always pretty easy. So I'll just go ahead and attach it. Oh, come here. Okay. As it gets bigger, it's a little bit harder to handle, just a little bit more cumbersome. Not hard, but it just kind of gets kind of floppy. Okay, so I'm going to sew back until I come out of this 8/0 seed bead, and then that way I can work my way into this picot so we can do our middle embellishment. So I'm going to sew up through here. So into this 8/0 here, push my needle through so that I can turn it over. Now, we want to work ourselves into the tip of this picot here. So I'm coming out of this 8/0 seed bead. I'm going to go into these two 11/0s here. Okay, so I've come through all three of these 11/0s, so now I'm in this picot. All I have to do is sew up to the top of it. Pull that through, and I'll go through the side bead in the picot here, and the top bead in the picot, and I'm just going to push it through the other side so I can turn it over, like so. Now I'm coming out from this side, so I'm going to pick up a 6mm bicone crystal, and I'm going to go from this top picot. Since I'm coming out in this direction, I'll go into this one here, like so. And we're going to do the same thing we did over here. We're just going to pick up another 6mm bicone crystal and go into the top of this picot. Looks like I have another thread pulled on that one. Darn it. Okay, let me go correct this thread again. See, as you're sewing through, if you're not really careful, you'll get threads connected over the top of your picots and such, and then you'll discover them later and have to pull them out, or I'll just pull it over the beads and then pull on the thread and it'll correct it. So let me correct that, and then I'll be back. We'll finish this unit, and then off camera we'll do the rest. Okay, so I corrected that little thread. Now I am just going to pick up another 6mm and go from here to here. And then another 6mm bicone and go from here to here, the very last one. Then I'll go up through my bicone and the next 11/0 also. Just connect that all together. Now sew back through it again and secure it. A little bit more here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we have to find a path to get over here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and sew into this next one here. And then I'm going to sew down this picot and over. So I'm going to go into the side here, into this one here, and I'm going to go through that one, and then I'm going to turn my piece over so I can see where I'm going to be. So I'll come out of this 8/0 here, and then we'll start our next unit here. So I'm going to stick my thread through, and sew these two 11/0s. This 11/0 down here, and sew all the way over till I get to this 8/0. Okay, so I have got myself established to where I can make my next connection. So again, you'll lay out your beads so you can see how they're going to be in your next connection. And go ahead and lay those out. Make your next connection and then make your last 4 after that. Go ahead and put on there too. Okay, so as you can see, I've connected all 16 of my units, put my embellishment in the middle. After doing my last one, I've sewed around the last unit in the seed beads on the back, just as we've been doing, until I'm exiting this 8/0 seed bead right here. And then we are going to make an embellishment around the outside to hold everything together. So we're going to pick up a 4mm bicone, and I'm going to start using some more of the hematite color and some of the largest 6mm bicones in the clear color. I'm going to pick up a 4mm, an 11/0 seed bead, a 6mm, an 11/0 seed bead, and a 4mm bicone, like so, on my poor bent needle. It's really a mess. Let me put those back on there. So now I'm going to go from this 8/0 seed bead to this one right here. And pull through, like so. And then I'm going to sew into these 11/0 seed beads on the back here. Let me show you. So I'm going to come up through this 11/0. I'm coming out of this 8/0 right here. I'm going to go up through these 2 11/0s. And it is getting really tight in the back, so the way the beads are laying next to each other is pretty tight. So just kind of wiggle your needle through and bend the heck out of it some more. And pull this up tight. Go into the next 2 11/0s. And exit. And then into the 8/0 right here. And then we will begin our next embellishment. Okay, so we're coming out of this 8/0 seed bead here. We're going to pick up an 11/0, a 4mm bicone. I'm going to use the hematite color now. And then a 6mm bicone, clear. And then a 4mm bicone, hematite, and an 11/0, like so. My poor bent needle. And then bring this down, and we're going to go up into this middle 11/0 on the unit right here. So we're going to go up through just this 11/0 here. And pull your needle through. Line it up all nice and neat like this. And then pick up an 11/0 seed bead onto your needle, like so. And then come down into the 4mm bicone right underneath the 11/0. Don't go through the 11/0 that you put on, just the bicone. And pull this tight. Get you a little closer so you can see I put on 11/0 and I came through the 4mm bicone. Then I'm going to pick up a 6mm bicone, a 4mm bicone, and an 11/0 seed bead, like this. And I'm going to go into this 8/0 seed bead on this unit right here. So right into this one. And pull tight. There we go. Now we have to turn this over and go through these 11-0 seed beads, including the one in the picot here. So we're going to go up into this 11-0, the 11-0 behind it, and the 11-0 in the picot, and pull through. Make sure your embellishment is tight, nice and tight, and then go into the next 3 beads until you exit this 8-0 seed bead here, right here. Pull your thread through, and do the same embellishment again. So that's what that looks like so far. Then we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a hematite bicone, a 6mm clear bicone, a hematite, and an 11-0, and I'll show you what I have. Just what we picked up on the previous one, just like this. And then we're going to go up through this middle 11-0 on the unit right in the middle here, and pull. Pick up an 11-0 seed bead onto your needle, and then go down into the 4mm bicone. Just hold on to everything as you pull it down, and then you'll be able to tighten it up as you work back through. And then pick up a 6mm bicone, a 4mm bicone, and an 11-0 seed bead, and come down into this 8-0 seed bead here. Then turn your piece over, sew through the 11-0s, go to the 8-0, and repeat the embellishment that we are doing until you get all the way to the end here, and then we'll be back. You back off so you can see it. So continue until you get here. Okay, so as you can see, I finished my embellishment on this end, and now I have sewn through the back of my last unit. I have added my 4mm bicone, 11-0, 6mm bicone, 11-0, and 4mm bicone, just like I did on this side, so that I can slide into this 8-0 here and bring me over to this picot to add my clasping. Now, the dilemma I have, so I'm going to go through this 8-0 here. The dilemma I have is that these 16 units come out to be exactly 7 inches. And now, if you have an 8-inch wrist, that's perfect. If you have a smaller wrist, that's not so perfect. You will want to do 13 units. Stop here instead of adding these last 3. Just make 13 units, and then get creative with your clasping to make it a little longer. Do a crystal set of right angle weave and then attach it. Use a great big clasp, whatever you want, to change the length of your bracelet to accommodate the size of your wrist. If your wrist is very small, then it'll probably work with just the 13 units. If it's medium, you may have to do maybe a set of right angle weave and then put your clasping on. Just use a bigger clasp, whatever you'd like. But my wrist is 6.5 inches. 7 inches is about as big as I like to go. Sometimes it's a little bit over, but not much. So what I need to do is I need to use a very small clasp. So I'm going to use this little button looking slide clasp. So it's a 2-piece like so. And you can attach any type of clasping the same way I'm doing this, anywhere you would like. You can always change the order of components however you would like to do it. But this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come through these 11-0s on the back. Now I'm coming through this 8-0 after adding the little extension of my embellishment over to my last unit. And I'm going to go through, and then I'm going to go up into the picot here. Now, I don't want to add much length, and it would have been nice if I didn't have this picot here, but I do, so I'm going to have to use it. So I'm going to have to go up through here and then through here. I've debated taking the whole thing apart, but I figure I can make it work somehow. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead. I'm coming through the top of my picot here. And you can add anything you want for your clasping right here. I am going to add an 8/0 seed bead and drop it down. I'm going to leave my clasp together at the moment, and I'm going to attach the big end here. So I'm going to go through my clasp, and then I'm going to go back through my 8/0, and I'm going to hold on to it and pull it down. And then I'm going to go into the opposite side of the 11/0 that I'm attaching to. So I came out of the, or I went up through the clasp on that side. Now I'm going to go into the opposite side of the top picot bead, like so. And that's going to attach just like that. Now I'm going to sew through my picot, and then I will sew back up around through my clasping. And I'll do that a couple of times until I feel like it is secure, and then we'll be back and we'll continue our embellishment over to the other side. So as you can see, I'm just sewing up through my picot and then back up through okay, the side bead here, and then I have to go through my top picot. You can't just slide through it, because the way it's setting is going to make your clasping lay right. So you have to go through the side of it and then back up through the 8/0, straight up through it, through the clasp, down, whoops, sorry, through the clasp. So you're going to go straight through the side of the top picot, straight up the 8/0, through the clasp, back down the 8/0, I'm not coordinated, and then I'm going to go back into the side of the 11/0 I'm attaching to. Now you're going to see a little bit of thread on the side of this 11/0, but that is the best I could come up with for what I need to do. Now, you can add any beads you want. You can add any clasping you want. You can put a chain here and a little lobster claw. That would work also. You can do any type of clasping you'd like. This is just what I'm doing. I'm going to sew back through a few times, and then I'll be back to show you how to continue the other side of the bracelet. Okay, so I've secured my clasping, and I'm coming out of the picot, the bottom bead in the picot here. I'm going to turn over my bracelet and go through the two 11/0s underneath, right next to the picot I'm coming out of, or the bead in the picot I'm coming out of, and pull through. And then I'm going to go through this 8/0 seed bead. Turn it over, and I am going to begin again by doing this extension here, so that I can begin my embellishment. So I just need to pick up a 4mm bicone, an 11/0 seed bead, a 6mm bicone, an 11/0 seed bead, a 4mm bicone, and slide down into the next 8/0 seed bead. And now I'm going to turn it over, sew into these 11/0s under here. So I'm coming out of the 8/0, I'm going to sew into the 11/0s just like we did on the other side. Here, pull through, go through the picot and the two 11/0s and the 8/0 on this side. Turn it over and pull it through. And then I will begin the same embellishment. We'll do one, and then we'll do the rest off camera, and then we'll clasp the other end, and call it good. And like I said, don't let this clasping discourage you. Do it any way you want. Modify the ends any way you want. The bulk of the bracelet can be done exactly like I've shown you. Just modify your ends to make it look the way you want it to look and fit the way you want it to fit. Now I'm going to go ahead and pick up this embellishment. So I'm going to pick up an 11/0 seed bead, and then a 4mm bicone, and then a 6mm bicone, and then a 4mm bicone, come here you, and an 11/0 seed bead. So this is what I have: 11/0, 4mm, 6mm, 4mm, 11/0. And then I'm coming from this 8/0 seed bead. I'm going to go into the center of this unit here, the 11/0 on the peaked part of the diamond shape, and pull it down. Then I'm going to pick up an 11/0 seed bead, and I am going to drop it down, and then I'm going to come back through the 4mm bicone, through the top of it, just like so, and pull. Make sure it looks nice and neat. Everything looks good. Pick up a 6mm bicone, a 4mm bicone, and an 11/0 seed bead. Go into your next unit, 8/0, that's down towards the bottom of it. Pull through. And then you will travel through your beads on the back of this unit. Coming out of the 8/0, go into the two 11/0s. Right behind that 8/0. Into the 11/0 and the picot, right here. Am I in it? Yes, I am. And then, of course, go ahead and slide through these two 11/0s and this 8/0, and continue the embellishment all the way to the end. I'll back off so you can see what it looks like so far. I'll secure that when I slide through those other beads and start my next embellishment here, and that's what that looks like so far. So go ahead and finish the embellishment. Okay, so I have finished the embellishment on this side now, and I have to travel from this 8/0 seed bead to this 8/0 seed bead to work into my picot to put on the other end of my clasp. So now I am going to, I'm coming out of this 8/0 seed bead. I'm going to go into this 8/0 seed bead here, pull this down, turn it over, and sew through the 11/0s right behind the 8/0 I'm coming out of, and then we will go into the bottom picot just like we've been doing here. And I'm going to attach the end by sewing up into this 11/0 and this top 11/0 here. Now I have to make sure when I attach this that it's going to slide in correctly, and I think that's right. So my little bottom hole here in the bottom of this is going to go down towards my beading mat. I'm going to pick up a 8/0 seed bead, and I'm going to attach the same way I did on the other side. Go up through the clasp right here, and then I'll go down through the 8/0, and then I'll go through the top of the 11/0. And this is what that should look like. So, let me get that thread out there and get close up. So I'm going to go ahead and sew through the picot, sew back up through several times to attach that. And then I will just sew through my work, tie some knots, and cut off my thread and show you the finished project. So I went ahead and secured my clasping, sewed through, made sure it was nice and tight, and then I just sewed through this little part of my embellishment, came down into my units, sewed through, and tied knots. Now, I know some people like me to show ending the project. However, tying off and knotting through, if you're doing this project, should be something you know how to do. This is a bit more of an advanced project. And the video is getting very long. So this is what the end result looks like. This is the clasping. And like I said, you can modify this many, many ways to make it look so many different ways and end it so many different ways. The main pattern is the bulk of the bracelet, and you can do all kinds of stuff on the ends to change it if you would like. I actually don't think this turned out too bad. I was quite worried about ending it this way. I did not think I would like it. And it is just a little bit big for my wrist. However, it has some movement. However, I can always change my ends if I'd like. I can always take off a few. I just wanted to go ahead and finish this for the project. Plus, I have some customers that have a little bit bigger wrists that might appreciate it being this size. So anyway, that's what that looks like. Let me take it off, show you the finished project. And that is what that looks like. And I'm going to call this crystal lace because I think it looks like crystal lace. And hopefully I haven't named something else that already. Ha! I tend to do that. Anyway, that's what that looks like. I hope you enjoyed this project and see you later.